And welcome, Aquaba. Once again, we are live and direct here on LIB Radio, LIBTV, livinginblack.com. Welcome to another round of the Conscious Rasta Report, where you and I get together and we deal with culture, consciousness, historical perspectives, entertainment, economics, education, health, labor, law, politics, religion, family, conflict, future studies, all areas of human interactivity and development. Today's date is Tuesday, the 16th day of December, the year 2025 in the Western calendar. This corresponds to the year 6265 in the Kemetic calendar, to which we have realigned our cultural clock. Welcome to the seventh millennium. You have found your family in a peaceful place here on LIB Radio, LIB TV, here on livinginblack.com. And I want to say thank you for tuning in today, bright and early. It's always is a pleasure, my pleasure, and I hope your pleasure as well, to be with you, my comrades, my friends, and my adopted family, my Pan-African family, and my progressive family around the world. Yes, we are serious with our mutual support. And find us today here on LIB Radio. The title of today's program is The Impact of Big Pharma on Natural Remedies. Today we're exposing Big Pharma's shady and often illegal practices that betray public trust in pursuit of profits over health. We'll examine how pharmaceutical corporations manipulate research, suppress natural remedies, and prioritize shareholder returns over patient well-being. The COVID pandemic amplified these abuses to unprecedented levels, revealing systemic corruption that demands our attention. Join us as we uncover the truth behind an industry that has lost its way. Welcome to the Conscious Rasta Report. We're going to do the best we can to expose as much as we can in the limitations of a program this short. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, I'm going to pull up a short piece of video. And this video talks about how Big Pharma has manipulated things so desperately. Let me share this with you, my listening audience. I've got it on the stage. I'm going to put the link in the YouTube for our YouTube listeners. And I did put it earlier, but let me put it up again, because sometimes if people tune in later, it doesn't show up. And let's just go through this short piece of video. This is just about 1 minute long.
We in the mental health field prescribe pills that cause obesity.
That cause it.
We give people
pills in the elderly. Some of the medications we prescribe cause
death.
Wow.
By the FDA.
That side effects may include.
Yes, they take it anyways because that's what the doctors are telling them they need.
How long need to be on those drugs if they intervene in a different way?
Maybe 20%.
Don't need them.
Who do need them. 80% take a different stance and different strategies for human health care. So many of our standard treatments are doing exactly the opposite of what we want to do. And that needs to change. We in the mental health field.
All right. That was not too long. And I think it got right to the point. He talked specifically about mental health field And we have covered the impact, side effects, direct effects, one might say, of the psychotropic drugs that are very commonly prescribed across the country. Very, very commonly prescribed. They're over prescribed. And one of the key points that we have pointed out, and I did point it out in my recent book, A Year Against Cancer, is that many of these psychotropic drugs are known to be associated with increased risk of developing cancer. So there we go. And when he opens that statement up with, after administering these drugs, the people gain 100 pounds, I see it. It is happening. And I do have contacts with people, clients might say, who have gained phenomenal amounts of money and are on psychotropic drugs. We all can do better than that. Let's see who's in the house today. I want you to check in. Just if nothing else, just a short shout out saying you're here, you are with us. If you're not with us, what did George Bush? If you're not with us, you're against us. So we can do better than that. So I'm going to do this, go into the body of research that I have pulled together for today's conversation. First of all, let's go to an article from abc.net.au news. That's Australian origin of this story. And let's share this with you, our listening audience. Now, if you're looking for these links, you're going to find nearly all of them are up on my Facebook page, but I'm also going to post them up on Rumble and YouTube in real time for our listening audiences there. Here we go. The article is entitled The War Against Natural Medicine. Around 400 high-profile doctors, medical researchers, and scientists recently joined forces to form a lobby group, Friends of Science in Medicine, FSM, in order to have, quote, alternative medicine, unquote, degrees removed from Australian universities. To have alternative medicine degrees removed from Australian universities. Chiropractic, osteopathy, Chinese medicine, naturopathy, iridology, kinesiology, reflexology, homeopathy, and aromatherapy are some of the courses on their blacklist. One might say their whitelist. The issue has had significant media coverage, but one question has failed to be properly answered. Why is a group of prestigious doctors and scientists who have the backing of the most profitable industry in the world, according to Fortune 500, the pharmaceutical industry, why are they targeting a few poorly funded natural medicine courses? And I actually do have this up on my desktop in the background. Let me see if I can find it. Yeah, here it is. The War Against Natural Medicine. It's written by Sarah Schwager. And here is the question. Here is the response. The official line of the group is that these, quote, alternative medicines, unquote, are making Australia look bad and thrashing the university's reputation. But is that really the reason? With all the countries and all of the universities in the world that provide alternative medicines? A similar move was made in the UK recently. The British will no longer be able to study certain natural medicine degrees. That does not include chiropractic or osteopathy. A publicly funded universities from this year. Yet, natural medicine has been utilized across Asia and Europe for thousands of years. The United States and Canada are pioneers of chiropractic as we see it today, providing university courses long before they were ever offered in Australia. Also, Nearly 85% of U.S. medical schools offer elective courses in alternative medicines. According to the World Health Organization, 80% of the world's population relies on natural therapies. The figures in Australia are much the same. So why Australia? Why is the FSM the name of their group? So what are they so worried about? Well, I think they are worried about getting access to that 80%. And they say it makes them look bad. But why does it not make China look bad? Where we can see traditional Chinese medicine has reached as much as $475 billion a year in value. 475 billion. So Australia is doing what Australia does, and we should expect them to do what they do. But this is all in the context of Big Pharma abusing natural medicine. I see you in the house, Rick Mo. Great to have you with me today, my brother, with us today. Greetings, LIB family, he writes, and we all share your presence amongst us. And we say greetings, Aquaba, and welcome to you, dear brother. Going forward, next article is actually a book, and the book I have up is called Bad Pharma: How Drug Companies Mislead Doctors and Harm Patients. And I'm going to put up a link so you can get access to that book. I think I do have this book. I think I got it not too long ago. I obviously have not yet started to read it, but the cover looks so familiar. I'm pretty sure I have this book in my catalog, Bad Pharma. And I'm going to have to pull it out after today's program. And here's what it has to say in the introduction on Amazon. We like to imagine that medicine is based on evidence and the results of fair testing and clinical trials. In reality, those tests and trials are often profoundly flawed. We like to imagine that doctors who write prescriptions for everything from antidepressants to cancer drugs to heart medication are familiar with the research literature about a drug, when in reality, much of the research is hidden from them by drug companies. We like to imagine that doctors are impartially educated, when in reality, much of their education is funded by the pharmaceutical industry. We like to imagine that regulators have some code of ethics and let only effective drugs onto the market, when in reality, they approve useless drugs with data on side effects casually withheld from doctors and patients. All these problems have been shielded from public scrutiny because they're too complex to capture in a sound bite. But Ben Goldacre shows that the true scale of this murderous disaster fully reveals itself only when the details are untangled. He believes we should all be able to understand precisely how data manipulation works and how research misconduct in the medical industry affects us on a global scale. With Goldacre's charismatic flair and forensic attention to detail, Bad Pharma reveals a shockingly broke system and calls for regulation. This is the pharmaceutical industry as it has never been seen before. And I did put a link to the book up, Bad Pharma: How Drug Companies Mislead Doctors and Harm Patients, February 2013, written by Ben Goldacre. And I'm pretty sure I have that book, but I have to double check. We continue. Today's topic is the impact of Big Pharma on natural remedies. And next up, This is a book as well. This is also up on Amazon, and I'm going to put up a link to the book as I speak right now, and put the link up for our Rumble family. The book is entitled The Truth About the Drug Companies, How They Deceive Us, and What to Do About It. This book is written by Marcia Angel, August 2005. So the book is 20 years old. It is up on Amazon. I did put the link up there to it. Currently, Americans spend a staggering $200 billion each year on prescription drugs. Now, 20 years later, I need to know. Let me put in a search engine in the background, and let's go over here to Copilot. I'm going to pull you up today. How much, we're going to ask the question, how much do Americans spend each year on pharmaceutical drugs? So I'm going to pull that up in the background. But here's what the introduction says. Currently, this is 2005. Americans spend a staggering $200 billion each year on prescription drugs. As Dr. Angel powerfully demonstrates, claims that high drug prices are necessary to fund research and development are unfounded. The truth is that drug companies funnel the bulk of the resources into the marketing of products of dubious benefit. Meanwhile, as profits soar, the companies brazenly use their wealth and power to push their agenda through Congress, the FDA, and academic medical centers. That's pretty serious. And I did put that up in the research, and I put it up on Copilot, but Copilot is not up to date. Let me do this. Perplexity. This is my favorite search engine now, and you know it. Now that you know it, we should hopefully use it. And I'm going to put up the same question that I put up earlier. And how much do Americans spend each year on prescription drugs? Now, Americans spent around $805.9 billion. That's over 4 times higher than 20 years ago. $805.9 billion on prescription drugs in 2024, a 10.2% increase from the previous year. Estimates vary depending on whether retail only or total drug expenditures are measured, but all sources agree spending has surged dramatically in recent years. Now that came from Copilot. I'm going to put up the same inquiry on Perplexity, which I think Perplexity is more current than Copilot. And according to Perplexity, Americans currently spend an order of 400 to 500 billion per year on prescription drugs, depending on what is counted and the year in question. So this is 2 times what it was 20 years ago. Although Copilot saying for the spending for 2024 was over 4 times higher. So either case, it is outrageous. Current annual spending level, this is Perplexity. Recent analyses indicate U.S. spending on retail prescription of drugs alone is around mid $400 billion range per year, with estimates of 2024 at roughly $460 billion. The Federal Fiscal Analysis notes that total U.S. prescription expenditures, all payers, were about $300 billion in 2019 and have risen substantially since then. And it talks about different ways that it's measured. But I can do this. Let me go to Microsoft's, and I'm going to pull up a reference for the drug spending. So pulling up this reference, I'm going to open this in a new tab. This is the one that gave the highest number. And I'm going to share with you this reference. This is from AHP News Center. The topic, U.S. drug spending up 10.2% in 2024, with weight loss drugs remaining top driver. This is published April 24th, 2025. It says, tariff concerns raise risk of shortages and higher costs. Now, let me give you the title. I'll give you the title and the date of this article. And I'm copying this for my benefit. And copying this for my benefit. And I'm going to share just the link and not the title, because the title and link are both too long to fit on one line. I don't have the patience for doing that today. But here is the link for Rumble Family. I have the link for my YouTube family. And here is the article that I was just referring to. Where you at? Where you at? Okay. Here's the article that I was referring to. Bear with me as I'm jumping around on different websites. U.S. drug spending up 10.2% in 2024. Here's what it reads. U.S. prescription drug expenditures rose to $805.9 billion in 2024, an increase of 10.2% over the previous year, fueled in large part by soaring demand for weight loss drugs known as GLP-1 receptor agonists, according to a new report from ASHP, American Society of Health System Pharmacists. GLP-1s, which are increasingly prescribed for both diabetes and obesity, are now the top drug category by total spending and the fastest growing segment in the market. And we have done multiple exposés on the GLP-1 agonist drugs. If you heard our report on it, you've got to love yourself more than that. You got to love yourself more than that, because GLP-1 inhibitors are associated with blindness. They're also associated with significant nutritional deficiencies, because they kind of lock up your stomach in a way that makes you not want to eat that much, and all causes morbidity and mortality. I cannot caution enough. GLP-1 inhibitors are not a solution to the obesity crisis. The obesity crisis mainly is driven by people's obsessions with inflammatory causing foods, whether it be red meats, anything dead, sugar, refined processed foods, refined wheat grain products. It's crazy. We are live. Now, I'd love to hear from you, our listening audience. Hit the like button if you can, if you're hearing this program today. And last couple of paragraphs. GLP-1s are transforming how we treat metabolic disease, but their rise coincides with growing concerns about supply chain vulnerability, said Eric Tishy, PharmaD MBA, leading author of the report and division chair of supply chain management at Mayo Clinic. Quote, tariff-related costs increases could hit the most cost-effective drugs at the hardest, and ultimately affect hospitals, clinics, and patients who depend on affordable generics. Clinic drug spending rose sharply, up 14.4% to $158.2 billion, while non-federal hospitals saw a more modest 4.9% increase to $39 billion. With GLP-1 shortages largely resolved, Continued growth in this category is expected, though direct-to-consumer channels may complicate efforts to track usage trends. Looking ahead, the report projects overall U.S. drug spending to increase by 9 to 11% in 2025, which with clinical expenditures rising 11 to 13%, and hospital spending growing 2 to 4%. Reflecting several forces expected to influence the market in the coming year. Force number one, oncology spending continues to grow at double-digit pace, driven by the introduction of new high-cost drugs and broader application of existing therapies. This is also driven by the fact that now people are developing cancer at the highest rate ever recorded in history, recorded for the United States, at 41% of American adults will be developing cancer. Number two, vaccine expenditures have declined post-pandemic. Even with the new vaccine products on the market, the trend may continue with increasing anti-vaccination sentiment. And if you've been listening to me, we are the very harbingers of anti-vaccine sentiments. Here on LIB Radio, I will openly admit I have always been against vaccines. I do not believe in any of them. I've seen some research that says there's some value in the tetanus vaccine, and I will concede that. But how many people are going to get tetanus? And there is also the COVID vaccines were not even vaccines, they were genetic therapy. And, quote, the last of these several forces expected to influence the market, new generics and biosimilars may help moderate overall spending growth by providing lower cost alternatives as key patents expire in 2025, including Entresto, a widely used heart failure drug. And the full report, National Trends in Prescription Drug and Expenditures for 2025, is available online ahead of print in AJHP. And I'll just kind of see if that one is available. Okay, this is it. National Trends in Prescription Drug Expenditures and Projections for 2025. And reject all cookies. I don't want that. And that was digital cookies, not sugar cookies. And let me post this up here for you to have access to it. I'm copy, and I'm gonna put this on my Facebook page. It's gonna go here, and it's gonna go down here. And I know many of you do not use my Facebook page for research, but you're welcome to. This is where all of these references, as many of them as I can put up, are going to be found for your further. And that was really a good article. It's from UK, the Oxford Academic, the American, no, actually not from UK, Oxford Academic hosting it, but American Journal of Health System Pharmacy, AJHP. Going forward, we got a lot more research for you today. I hope you find this to be satisfying. Do drop a note. Let us know what you think. We continue with the Big Pharma accusation gets right and wrong about the drug industry. This article, I'm going to put this up for the link, and it's kind of long. I don't think it will all fit. Let me try it. What the Big Pharma industry accusation gets right and wrong about the drug industry. And it did fit on there. Oh, no, it didn't. So let me do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to flip this around and put the URL first X, and then I'll put the link after that. There you go. Now that way I can put it all up there and it will only cut off the second part of that. Should have thunk about that earlier. And push this up for you, our Rumble family. And I do see our Rumble family is in the house, but kind of slimming down. We're going to do the best we can. Here's what this article has to say. Now, bear with me. The case of Big Pharma. Oh, this is something else. Let me put up this article, which I know I did place this up today. I think it's over here. No, I don't see it there. And I'm going to pull it up. It should be coming up. What the Big Pharma accusation gets right and wrong about the drug industry. Valid criticism of pharmaceutical industry often snowballs into demonization, leading conspiracy theorists to promote an alternative that is simply hypocritical. This should be interesting. This is written by Jonathan Jerry, May 26, 2023. Grievances against the pharmaceutical industry are common in new media spaces. Influencers on Instagram tell us to shun drugs and embrace the natural. Diatribes are shared on Facebook against the profit-seeking motives of Big Pharma. Podcasts, websites, and videos try to convince us that the prescription drug business simply cannot be trusted. Okay, you're on a roll. Joe Mercola, who we air from time to time, an osteopath who has set himself up as the one-stop shop alternative to medicine, recently declared on his site that, quote, the drug industry has become the #1 cause of death and disability worldwide, hands down, unquote. Now, there's a lot of truth in what Joseph Mercola's quote says, but it is not accurate. It would be better if he said iatrogenics is the #1 cause of death and disability worldwide, hands down. Iatrogenics. If he had said that, there'd be no question about it. But if he says the drug industry, that's not true. Because the drug industry is only responsible for maybe 2/3 of the amount of deaths that are caused by cancer, but even worse, cardiovascular disease. That we're talking about iatrogenic would be the drug industry would be responsible for adverse events. There is a federal adverse events reporting site, and they do a real poor job of advertising and marketing themselves. It's a federal government agency in the United States, and they do collect the statistics on how many people are injured or killed each year from pharmaceuticals. And according to the best research, and it's appeared in my book, Living Super in Paradise, they openly admit each year between 250 and 400 million Americans die from adverse events from properly prescribed prescription drugs. Now, that is very significant, and it is the greatest proportion of the list of iatrogenic deaths. But the iatrogenic deaths include a number of other factors. And so that is what how Joseph Mercola left himself open to being criticized in this article. But I'm not mad at him. I'll continue to play Dr. Joseph Mercola's reports because he's generally pretty good. So that's what I have to say about it. And here, I'm going to continue this a little bit long. This is from the article, What the Big Pharma Accusation Gets Right and Wrong About the Drug Industry. This bag of grievances carries a heavy and myriad load of claims, some more believable than others. And it is precisely those more believable claims that help the conspiratorial pill go down. Quote, something is wrong in medicine. In his unsparing criticism of the drug industry, Bad Pharma, How Drug Companies Mislead Doctors and Harm Patients, Dr. Ben Goldacre writes about a drug called reboxetine as an example of one of the many problems with how drugs are developed. Reboxetine, known commercially as Indronax, is an antidepressant. Dr. Goldacre, a psychiatrist by training, remarks in his book that he had prescribed reboxetine in the past. Why? Because the published scientific evidence showed that it was quite effective. The problem is that Dr. Goldacre, like every other doctor, has been misled. A total of 7 trials pitting reboxetine against placebo had been run. All except for one had shown no difference between the two. But the only trial whose results were actually published was the one showing reboxetine was better than placebo. 6 negative trials, 1 positive trial. The 6 negative trials were buried and didn't see the light of day until a research team unearthed them. This is one of the major problems with the pharmaceutical industry. There are tremendous incentives to only publish the results of clinical trials which favor them and to never share the results of negative trials. The skewing of the medical literature will necessarily impact the decisions doctors make. How can a physician judge the true worth of a trial when the portrait that emerges from the literature has been doctored? I'm sure he intended no pun. The system in which drugs are developed and marketed is further warped in a multitude of ways. Drugs can be approved based not on the hard endpoints that we care about, like death and disease, but on surrogate markers, like an abnormal heart rhythm. It's easier and faster to show that a drug reduces the risk of an abnormal heart rhythm, but this is not the same as showing that it will reduce the risk of dying from this abnormal heart rhythm. Clinical trials also can be stopped early. Sometimes there's an arguably good reason for doing so. The difference between the drug and what is compared to is so vast that it would be unethical to withhold the drug from the other participants. But sometimes a trial is prematurely terminated simply because the data collected at this point favors the drug. It's not unlike playing rock, paper, scissors, and when you lose, suddenly deciding to do the best of 3 or the best of 4. The pharmaceutical industry has also found ways to reduce the risk of studying new drugs and to wring out more money from pharmaceuticals whose patents are close to expiry. When a new type of drug has been shown to work and is approved for sale, other pharmaceutical companies can invest money into developing a slightly different version of this drug, which is referred to as a, quote, me too drug, unquote. Some of these molecules can be useful by being safer or more effective in certain people, but they take time and money away from the trailblazing work of discovering brand new classes of drugs. And when a profitable drug's patent comes to an end, opening the door for other companies to manufacture it and sell it at a much lower price, the patent holder can use a trick of chemistry to hold on to their profits. Molecules can be left-handed or right-handed mirror images of the same formula. As Dr. Goldacre reports in Big Pharma, AstraZeneca was selling a heartburn medication known as omeprazole, Prilosec, also Losec, which was a mixture of the left-handed and the right-handed forms of the drug. As the patent was running out, it launched esomeprazole Nexium, which was a purified version of only the left-handed molecule. No difference in benefit, but AstraZeneca invested a lot of money in a direct-to-consumer campaign to convince patients this was the patented drug they needed. And the article goes on, and this is a wonderful article. I encourage you to get access to it. Again, this article is entitled, What the Big Pharma Accusation Gets Right and Gets Wrong About the Drug Industry. Next, the case of Big Pharma. I'm only going to just put up this link, and I'm not going to read it because I did read it one time and I didn't have anything that I pulled from it. Excuse me. But I did want you to have access to it. And nobody's talking to me today. Let me find out if I have an audience, because if I'm the only one really interested in this, then yeah, I guess I'm unique. But I bet you I'm not so unique. I bet you there are people who do truly care about what we are talking about today. So I'm going to look over here. I do see 2 thumbs up on the YouTube page. So people are listening. It may be a small audience. Again, those of you who know my backstory know I had a huge site with over 5,000 subscribers up on YouTube. But during the pandemic era, I was squeezed out. And I haven't been able to reconnect it since. I keep threatening to do so. You hear me threaten to do so. But I just haven't done it yet. So what I'm doing right now, let me just double check over here. Let's go back into the next article. Next article, the case of Big Pharma. I did just post that link up. That was what I was doing. I was posting the case of Big Pharma up for my YouTube family and for my Facebook family. I probably did that earlier, but I'm going to do it again for the streaming audience today. And I do see in the house, a few of us have been checking in. The case of Big Pharma, socially responsible use of knowledge. And it sounds like a pretty interesting article, but I'm not going to share that with you for right now because there are others that I did clip from. This one from HHS Incorporated, Big Pharma ties draw pandemic response concerns. Now, this next section, I'm going to focus in on the reaction to the COVID-19 schematic. I meant to say scamatic, because that exposed a huge fraud. I'm going to call it fraud. This one, HHS Incorporated, Big Pharma ties draw pandemic response concerns. Now, I have little bits and pieces. This from pogo.org. And it says the influence of Big Pharma. And let me put up this link. You do want to see this too. The influence of Big Pharma large pharmaceutical companies on natural remedies is multifaceted and often controversial. This impact can be viewed through various lenses, including regulation, marketing, competition, and public perception. Now, that was just one of two articles that I have up, and I want to just share this little bit because this is very, very important what I'm about to share. And this couple of articles from the same source are going to do, hopefully, a good job of exposing what we need to know here for today. So the second article I have up on the desktop right now is entitled HHS Inc., the same source, Big Pharma Ties Draw Pandemic Response Concerns. The influence of Big Pharma, large pharmaceutical companies, on natural health remedies. Oh, that's the same article. So I don't want to do that. Let me just erase this first one. Big Pharma's Game of Control is the next article. And then here's what I want to do. I want to go into some of these articles. I pulled out a bunch of different references that really kind of cover what we've come to today. But Big Pharma's big problems. COVID-19 heightens patent antitrust tension caused by reverse payments. This is from Digital Commons. And I'm going to do this. I'm going to copy. I'm going to X that, paste it here. And I'm going to paste this up with the hyperlink first. And with the hyperlink first, you will definitely get a link to the article, and it won't cut off in case it doesn't fit on one line. And bear with me, because I'll be honest with you. I still think, I truly believe that you, our listening audience, are actually curious about all of this. And I am not the only one that's curious in understanding these articles and these references. When I read something controversial on the internet, I go for evidence, evidence, evidence. I do not send this stuff into your inbox on social media. I'll send it out to everybody. I'm not going to abuse you like that unless you and I are already in a conversation. You know me, I know you, and we're talking deep on a subject. Then I'll put stuff in your inbox. But we're losing. Our team is losing in all of this, and we got to do better. And we're not going to do better if only I or just a few of us are out here looking for references to justify these bizarre claims. Not saying that the claims aren't true. Many times they are true. So we're going to do the best we can to do even better. And that's the truth. So here is the next article on my list. The digitalcommons.law.seattle. It's called Big Pharma, Big Problems. COVID-19 heightens patient antitrust tension caused by reverse payments. Regulatory influence. Now, this goes into, I think this is much broader. This is an earlier part of our research, and I was inserting all these other segments between, but let's just share. In fact, I'm going to just push this up in my browser, and let's go directly to this article. And it says, I cannot find the page. You're going to find it. Oh, I tried finding this a little bit earlier. Yeah, this is not going to come up. I think it is there. Let me try this. Let me just try this. This is coming up from Digital Commons dot law Seattle University. And let's try this. CGI. And it's not going to allow me to get in there. So can't find the page you're looking for. And I'm not, obviously, I found the article earlier. So if you want to do a little bit of research, you're going to find it. I have some of these other points regarding today's topic. Let me focus in. We're talking about big pharma abusing natural health industries. And we talk about regulatory influence of big pharma, approval processes. Big pharma benefits from thorough regulatory frameworks that require extensive testing and approval for pharmaceutical drugs. In contrast, natural remedies often face fewer regulations, which can lead to inconsistencies in quality and efficacy. And that is true to some extent. But we have to understand that natural remedies do not kill 251 million to 400 million Americans every year. And that is according to research I published 10 years ago. Lobbying. Pharmaceutical companies often lobby for policies that prioritize their products over natural alternatives. This can lead to regulations that make it harder for natural remedies to gain acceptance or distribution. Of course, natural remedies are gaining tremendous amount of acceptance and distribution. It said again earlier, 80% of the world population would prefer to have natural alternative medicine remedies available to them. Research and development. Funding. Large pharmaceutical companies typically fund clinical trials and research. This funding tends to focus on synthetic drugs rather than natural remedies, as the potential for patent protection is higher with pharmaceuticals. And with that patent protection, obviously comes profits, 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 profits. That's the bottom line. Follow the money. You're going to find out where their heart is. Scientific bias. Research funded by Big Pharma may disproportionately highlight the benefits of synthetic drugs. Meanwhile, studies on natural remedies often receive less attention, which can create a perception that they lack efficacy. And that's a big concern here. It's these drugs. Someone sent me this recently, and I just found this yesterday. It was on my hard drive on the other computer. The other computers for the radio station, and I normally try not to store research on that computer, but I wanted to go and find these two pictures, and I'm putting this in. This is on my USB drive. There it is, and there were two particular pictures there, date modified. And these pictures were, where are they at? Behind that at, my daddy would say. Modified. I need to find these two pictures, and I can't find them right now. And I'm not going to pull them up on that computer because you won't have access to it over here. But there was two different Adobe Acrobat files. I can maybe find them this way. Search for it by Acrobat. And it was under the client's name. I don't have access to them. But she was sending me the pictures of the drugs she was on. And in each of two pictures she sent, there were probably about 7 drugs or so, all lined up, bottles lined up, and taking a picture for me to extract the name, do the research, find out what the drugs were intended to do. And then with a consultation, she and I were scheduled to provide alternatives. Food is nature's most perfect medicine. You heard me say that again and again. I'm going to say it one more time. Food is nature's most perfect medicine. Food is nature's most perfect medicine. If you see what I eat, I post up pictures on social media. If you see what I eat, I'm eating what I regard to be nature's most perfect medicine. So she sent me those two pictures of the drug she was on, and I know I have them somewhere. I'll just go look around. And then I was reminded we never had that consultation. She scheduled it originally. It was scheduled to be a month ago, over a month ago. It was the beginning of October. I think it was supposed to be the mid-October. We were scheduled to talk. And then I didn't hear from her. Then we went back and forth via messenger a little bit more. And then I didn't hear from her. So I'm presuming, and I think she had something very serious. I think it was cancer. So I don't think I will be hearing from her. And that's too bad. As she originally said, well, I don't have $250 for consultation. I said, well, let me know when you're able to schedule it. And then later, I think I even said to her, if you cannot pay at all, how much of it can you pay? And that was a combination of I needed the money. You know about our fund drive issues here at LIB Radio, but also she needed the information that I had, beyond a shadow of a doubt. She needed it to preserve her life. And if you are diagnosed with cancer, you got to act immediately. Immediately. If you start chemotherapy, go with the drug companies. Chemotherapy is their most toxic medicines ever diagnosed, ever given to humans. Wow. Big Pharma, influence over natural medicine. Market competition. Profit motives. The profit-driven nature of Big Pharma can result in aggressive marketing of prescription drugs. This often suppresses consumer awareness and use of natural remedies, which may be perceived as less profitable and less marketable, less marketed. Conflict of interest. Collaborative relationships between pharmaceutical companies and healthcare providers or institutions can influence medical recommendations favoring synthetic medications over natural treatments and over nutrition-based treatments. And what's the word where patients are overprescribed drugs? There's a term for it, and I can't think of it right now, and I don't want to look it up. But the term, what is the term? Let me look it up. What is the term? What is the term? Is the term for over medication patients. And there is a term, and the term for over medication of patients is polypharmacy, which typically refers to the regular use of 5 or more medications. This condition can lead to harmful effects and increased risk of adverse drug events, especially in older adults. And older adults are more vulnerable to this as well because their cognitive, their ability to understand what is happening to them is unfortunately diminishing. And this was my client's, potential client's problem. She couldn't really understand. She knew, she heard something. I was on another radio show. She heard something that she needed to respond to, but she could only take it so far. And I remember asking her, do you have someone in your family, a friend or someone close to you that can help you with all of this? And she, I think, indicated no. But to the baby boomers out there, be careful. Be very careful, because the pharmaceutical companies are taking advantage of that. They're taking advantage of the fact that many older adults don't really understand. That's why they can they can create this situation called polypharmacy. Repeat, the term for over-medication of patients is polypharmacy, which typically refers to the regular use of 5 or more medications. This condition can lead to harmful effects and increased risk of adverse drug events, especially in older adults. And copy, I want you all to understand polypharmacy, very important. Copy and paste this here. And that's it. That's polypharmacy. We're almost finished today, people, because if there's limited interest in the program, I do want to move on. Market competition, we talked about that. Conflict of interest, we talked about that. Public perception and consumer behavior. Trust issues. Pharmaceutical advertisements can lead to skepticism regarding natural remedies, as they often emphasize safety and scientific backing of their products. Cultural bias. There is sometimes a cultural tendency to prioritize pharmaceutical solutions, viewing natural remedies as less credible or effective, which undermines consumer interest in holistic approaches. And ethical considerations. The high prices of pharmaceutical drugs can make them inaccessible, leading people to turn to natural remedies. However, the lack of regulation can also expose consumers to ineffective or harmful products. People taking turpentine, that's crazy. And other things people are doing. It's crazy out here. And these are quote unquote alternatives, but the alternatives sometimes are as bad. I can't say worse, because the cumulative number of people suffering from the alternatives that are dangerous is much, much smaller than the ones taking the mainstream drugs. Ethical considerations. The high price can make them inaccessible, leading people to turn to natural remedies. I read that. Informed choice. While consumers have the right to choose natural remedies, the disparity in information availability can skew decision making. Many may not have access to reliable information regarding the effectiveness of natural remedies. So it says, while Big Pharma significantly impacts the promotion and perception of natural remedies, the conversation surrounding health is becoming more inclusive, with increasing consumer interest in holistic approaches. As awareness grows, there may be room for integration between big pharma innovation, big pharmaceutical innovation, and naturally sourced treatments. And yeah, I'll wait. I'll believe it when I see it. It says the pharmaceutical industry has shaped how natural remedies are perceived, regulated, researched, and marketed, sometimes in ways that sideline traditional therapies, but also within a wider ecosystem that includes safety concerns, regulatory gaps, and powerful supplements industry of its own. I'm going to go ahead to read on for a few more minutes. There's a lot more to this research, today's research. I pulled out a bunch of stuff. Regulatory framing and access. In many Western countries, regulators classify most herbal and traditional products as foods, quote unquote, dietary supplements, or complementary medicines. while reserving the legal category of, quote, drugs with reimbursable indications, primarily for patented pharmaceuticals. This classification means natural remedies often cannot claim to treat or cure diseases, even when tradition or preliminary data suggests great benefit, because they do not pass through the same multi-phase industry-funded drug approval pathway. At the same time, lack of harmonized global rules for herbal products makes cross-border trade difficult and keeps many traditional medicines in regulatory limbo. Lobbying power as an policy influence. Now, here's where we're getting to the meat of today's conversation. Large drug manufacturers maintain extensive lobbying operations that influence legislation, pricing rules, and reimbursement policy, helping secure favorable legal and economic environments for pharmaceuticals. One classic example is the U.S. Medicare Prescription Drug Improvement and Modernization Act of 2003, which prohibited government price negotiation for many prescription drugs, a major win for the industry that entrenched high pharmaceutical spending and reduced incentives to prioritize lower cost or non-patentable alternatives. Critics argue this policy environment indirectly disadvantages natural or low-cost therapies because reimbursement, marketing, and physician incentives skew heavily toward branded drugs. Next, suppression, co-optation, and stealing of herbs. There are documented patterns where pharmaceutical interests pharmaceuticalize traditional plants, in isolating actives, patenting derivatives, and then regulating or discouraging over-the-counter herbal forms. Commentators note that some herbal remedies have been restricted or tightly controlled after industry moved to develop proprietary versions, which can effectively push community-based or low-cost uses to the margins. Practitioners in integrative and natural medicine often prescribe this dynamic as a soft form of suppression. The herbal knowledge is absorbed, but control and profit shift to pharmaceutical challenges. Boy, oh boy, oh boy, that is so sinister. I hope you heard what it had to say. Let me repeat this. Practitioners in integrative and natural medicine often prescribe this dynamic as a soft form of suppression. The herbal knowledge is absorbed, but control and profit shift to pharmaceutical channels. Because if we don't stop it, if you and I don't stop it, they are doing that right now all across Africa. African herbs are more diverse than any other part of the planet. But compared to China's estimates of $475 billion a year, and this was estimated at the latter parts of the pandemic, estimates at $475 billion a year. Compare that to Africa's estimated $12 billion a year. Where is the money going? A lot of that money is going into the coffers of pharmaceutical companies who are racing to go to Africa and steal the herbs. And you know something? What are we doing about it? What are we doing about it? Attacks on natural medicine and professional turf. Alternative practitioners, such as naturopaths, chiropractors, and midwives, have historically faced organized opposition from parts of the conventional medical establishment, which has long-standing ties to pharmaceutical interests. In the United States, the American Medical Association was found in federal court to have illegally tried to monopolize healthcare and undermine chiropractic, illustrating that professional turf wars can intersect with the economic dominance of drug-based medicine. Critics argue that public narratives portraying natural medicine as uniformly, quote, unscientific, unquote, sometimes serve to protect market share rather than to encourage rigorous, even handed evaluation of all modalities. Next, safety, quality, and the supplement industry. Natural remedies are not just victims of Big Pharma, they are also part of a huge profit driven industry with its own problems. A large systematic review found that about 1/3 of, quote, natural, unquote, weight loss products globally were adulterated with synthetic pharmaceuticals such as sibutramine, stimulants, or diuretics, undermining both safety and the integrity of traditional herbal practice. Regulators note that when herbal products are sold as foods or supplements, many countries do not require pre-marketing proof of quality, safety, or efficacy, which contributes to contamination, mislabeling, and serious adverse events. What Big Pharma criticism gets right and wrong. Analyses of Big Pharma narratives emphasize that industry's pricing power, lobbying, and control over clinical research agendas are real and often distort which therapies, drug or natural, reach the mainstream. At the same time, some anti-pharma rhetoric overstates intentional, quote, conspiracies, unquote, against natural remedies and downplays genuine safety problems and fraud within the natural health products sector. The reality is a contested landscape. Pharmaceutical companies, supplement manufacturers, regulators, and practitioners all compete to shape what counts as legitimate, profitable, and evidence-based care. And the next phase of this inquiry takes us deeper into specific areas such as cancer, metabolic disease, or neurodegeneration, and map how drug-centered versus natural approaches have been differently funded, regulated, and communicated to the public. Reading forward, this is getting good, and still, I got a lot of research. We're going to do the best we can to wrap it up here real shortly. The impact of Big Pharma on natural remedies is multifaceted, involving both the pharmaceutical industry's influence on market dynamics and public perception. Below is a detailed explanation of this relationship. Overview of Big Pharma's influence. 3 points. Number one, market dominance. Pharmaceutical companies often dominate, here, bear with me, a little formatting, often dominate the healthcare narrative, promoting synthetic drugs over natural alternatives. Point two, research funding. And considerable amount of research funding is directed toward pharmaceuticals, leading to potential biases against natural remedies. And point three, regulatory hurdles. Natural remedies generally face stricter regulatory scrutiny, which can hinder their development and acceptance in mainstream healthcare. Positive influences of Big Pharma. It does have some positive influences. Let's see what they have to say. Number one, research validation. And we're comparing Big Pharma to the natural research validation, limited, extensive clinical trials, robust clinical testing and validation. So natural has limited, extensive clinical trials, while Big Pharma, robust clinical testing and validation. Comparing accessibility, often widely available and affordable. Big Pharma, prescription-based, often expensive. Comparing natural to Big Pharma, In marketing power, natural has less marketing funding, while Big Pharma strong marketing leading to public trust. And again, in comparing alternative to Big Pharma in innovations, traditional practices lacking modern technology versus significant investment in drug development. Negative influences of Big Pharma. Number one, suppression of information. There are claims that pharmaceutical companies may suppress studies that show the efficacy of natural remedies to protect their profit margin. And I didn't mean to do that. I did mean to do that. Okay, continuing. Point two, patenting issues. Many natural remedies cannot be patented, leading Big Pharma to focus on synthesizing similar compounds, which can limit interest in or accessibility of natural options. And again, I caution this is happening across Africa. The whole spectrum of traditional African medicine is vulnerable to exactly that right now. And you and I don't have a team on the ground in Africa. We do have teams there because I know I've been invited to participate with them. But we are in America not participating. And I'm talking about the medical industry in America, of people trained in the medical industry that also have capitalist tendencies. This is a great opportunity. Point three, consumer mistrust. Aggressive marketing and negative portrayals of natural remedies can lead consumers to distrust these alternatives, even when evidence supports their efficacy. And last point, policy influence. Lobbying efforts can result in regulations that favor patented pharmaceuticals over natural remedies, impacting how they are marketed and sold. So, in conclusion, and there's more, but let's conclude this. Big Pharma plays a significant role in shaping the landscape of healthcare, often favoring synthetic drugs while downplaying the benefits of natural remedies. While there can be positive aspects to this influence, such as ensuring safety and efficacy through rigorous testing, there are also considerable drawbacks, such as market suppression and biases that can limit public access to beneficial natural options. And lastly, I'm talking about direct evidence of what we talked about today. Number one, SSRI trials, selective serotonin reuptake trials in children, unpublished negative studies. Analysis of selective serotonin reuptake inhibitor antidepressant trials in children show that many negative or null trials were never published, while positive ones were prioritized, creating a distorted impression of benefit. One child psychiatrist reported being required to sign a 10-year non-disclosure agreement just to review negative unpublished data for a drug already on the market, effectively gagging independent discussion of poor efficacy. Number two, Merck's Vioxx, ghostwriting and omission of deaths. The case of Merck's painkiller rofecoxib, otherwise known as Vioxx. A ghost-written article in a major medical journal reported trial results without mentioning deaths among participants, thereby downplaying serious cardiovascular risks. The article's listed author later admitted that Merck wrote the initial manuscript and sent it to him for editing, while the drug's use, fueled in part by such publications, was followed by many heart attacks and fatalities. Point three, Wyeth's ghost-written HRT literature to downplay cancer and heart risks litigation against Wyeth, now part of Pfizer, revealed more than 1,500 internal documents showing that the company used ghostwriters to produce reviews and commentaries on menopausal hormone therapy, HRT, that overstated benefits and minimized harms. These ghost-written pieces were strategically placed in journals to counter emerging evidence of increased breast cancer and cardiovascular risk and to disparage competing therapies. Number four, Merck's plan to, quote, neutralize and, quote, discredit critical Vioxx doctors. During Australian litigation over Vioxx, internal Merck emails showed that the company maintained a list of, quote, problem physicians. Researchers raised safety concerns whom it aimed to neutralize and discredit. This internal strategy emerged around 1999 when serious questions about Vioxx's cardiovascular safety first arose, and illustrates an organized effort to intimidate or marginalize critical scientific voices rather than transparently address risk data. Now, I don't know if the RICO laws existed then in 1999, but why not create a racketeering and corrupt organizations case against the pharmaceutical manufacturers? This is obviously mafia type behavior on their part. Number five, concealed and withheld safety related documents. Talks about Pradaxa, Risperol, and others. A U.S. federal judge fired Boehringer Ingelheim recently. No, fined, not fired. A U.S. federal judge fined Boehringer Ingelheim nearly $1 million for failing to preserve and for withholding countless documents relevant to lawsuits over the blood thinner Pradaxa, calling the conduct, quote, egregious, unquote, and in bad faith. More broadly, reporting on major drug cases notes that companies including Johnson & Johnson, Eli Lilly, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, and others have faced large judgments or settlements for deceptive marketing and selective publication that concealed a serious side effects such as weight gain, diabetes, or cardiovascular risk. And these same companies that were concealing the side effects of these drugs, including weight gain, diabetes, are now manufacturing GLP-1 inhibitors, which we can presume in many cases are diagnosed for those people that their other drug caused the problem. Earlier, someone said, we played the videos that psychiatric drugs, psychotropics, cause 100 pounds of weight gain in the course of a year or so. And these same manufacturers are now rushing. The biggest area of new profit is GLP-1 inhibitors. So they're now coming in they have a drug that's prescribed, the biggest sector of drug marketing in the world. The GLP-1 inhibitors are prescribed for the weight gain and diabetes and subsequent cardiovascular risks caused by these other drugs that they were being marketed by Johnson & Johnson, Eli Lilly, AstraZeneca, Pfizer, and others. And I'm going to close with just this last part. This is actually the end of my research for today. Conflict rising during the COVID pandemic. Big Pharma's profit-driven priorities during the COVID-19 pandemic clash with holistic health practitioners' emphasis on natural immunity, early treatments, and non-pharmaceutical interventions leading to public disputes, censorship, and regulatory actions. 1, vaccine mandates versus natural immunity. 2, suppression of early outpatient protocols. Holistic advocates promoted reported repurposed drugs like ivermectin and hydroxychloroquine, alongside vitamins and zinc for early treatment. But pharmaceutical backed regulators and media labeled these, quote, horse paste, unquote, or dangerous, prioritizing remdesivir and vaccines despite mixed trial data. Oh boy, this brings back such horrible, horrible memories of what I went through fighting with them over the course of 3 or 4 years. And not only fighting against these pharmaceutical companies, but having the ones that I thought were on my side. I couldn't pay YouTube the kind of money they were getting from these pharmaceuticals. Point three, censorship of alternative voices. Platforms influenced by pharma-funded fact checkers, deplatformed holistic doctors discussing prevention via diet, sunlight, or supplements, framing them as misinformation spreaders, while pharma ads for vaccines proliferated unchecked. That was exactly what caught me. And four, prioritization of patients over generics, or patents over generics. Big Pharma patented novel antivirals and vaccines. Point five, and I'm skipping through some of this, industry influence on guidelines. Pharma is tied to health agency shaped official protocols, including holistic options like high dose vitamin D or melatonin. Number six, rejection of preventative lifestyle measures. That was what we had constantly been doing here. And we were censored out. And in conflict in public messaging, pharma-backed campaigns portrayed vaccines as the sole path to herd immunity, marginalizing holistic views on hybrid immunity or terrain theory, fueling open debates where practitioners accuse the industry of fear mongering for sales. We are in our LIB Radio Fund Drive. Think about this. Today's report confirms that your health is your wealth, and your wealth should be in your hands, not in the hands of profiteering Big Pharma. And we are committed to bringing you the knowledge you need to thrive. In December, as we reflect on another year of exploring wellness breakthroughs, holistic healing practices, and preventive health strategies, I'm asking you for your support to keep this vital conversation going. Every episode we produce requires hours of research, interviews and/or reviews of experts, and careful production to ensure you receive accurate, actionable health information. We've covered everything here, from nutritional science and mental health to fitness innovations and natural remedies, and exposing Big Pharma's abuses, all without the influence of Big Pharma sponsors or wellness industry gatekeepers. Your donations directly fund our ability to keep on this mission, to bring on medical professionals, wellness experts, and researchers who share cutting edge information that mainstream media often overlooks. This is not only in our live broadcasts. If you tune in to us all day long as we play on the You Now page, as well as on the TuneIn app, the best of what I come across and want everybody else out there to learn. I study this stuff every day, all day, from other researchers. And you need to know that. We're not trying to sell you supplements or miracle cures. We're here to empower you with the knowledge that helps you make the informed decisions about your well-being, how long you want to live, and what quality of life you want to enjoy. This holiday season, while many of us are thinking about our health goals, or we're not thinking about our health goals, we're thinking about Jing, 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 ling, 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 ling. Thinking about Santa Claus. We're asking you to consider investing in this podcast that is invested in you. Consider, can you afford $5, $25, or $50? Whatever you can afford, your contribution ensures that we can continue delivering episodes that challenge conventional thought, explore alternative medicine approaches, and celebrate the connection between mind, body, and spirit. Think about the value of just one insight that has changed your health routine, one expert interview that has answered your burning questions, or one episode such as today that motivated you to prioritize self-care. That's worth supporting. Help us reach our December goal so that we can expand our health coverage, bring on more diverse voices in wellness, and continue being your trusted companion on your sacred journey. Together, we are building a healthier, more informed community, one episode at a time. I'm going to ask you to go to libradio.com, HTTP. Scroll down to the bottom of the page and look for the donation link. And when you do that, you will be contributing to the truth. I do see in the house, we have Rick Rude is in the house. I switched over to YouTube, but we are listening. Can we see these links after the live ends here or on Rumble? The best way to see the links, best way to see the complete links to today's research is my Facebook page. And that is, where is it? Facebook page. And bear with me. Facebook page is this one. I'm going to copy that so you have access to it. Here is where to find these links. Why you stop typing? Okay, it didn't stop. And here's where to find these links on my Facebook page. And I'm going to post this up as well. And thank you for the comment. It says the RICO laws existed in 1999. Trust the science. Quote, my black behind. I appreciate you in the house, Brother Rick. Rick Rude, he says, is his name. And I'm going to just post this up as well over here. And I'm going to put this up on my Rumble comment section for when the show is over. And click this one too. And I want to thank you, Rick Rude, for joining us and being with us. Please do. Can I get you to subscribe to the channel on here? I have 194 subscribers. I'm going to try and see what we can do to build this new channel up. And I'm going to do a better job. And I could probably just do this in one day. This focus to go back and get YouTube to renege on its disruption of my previous channel. I mean, it was monetized. It was bringing in money about every 2 months or so. We had over 5,000 subscribers. We'd have over 2,500 hours listening every month. It was a marginal size site, but doing much, much better than most, as we had been in place for 16 years or so. And thousands of videos were eradicated when they cut that. And it was all behind a lie. So we're doing the best we can to rebuild it now. So thank you, Rick, for being a part of it. Thank you all for tuning in today. You have been tuned into your favorite. We would aim to be your favorite. We want to be your favorite, the one you trust, the one that you can trust, more so than Big Pharma. You would never, ever be able to displace the trust that you would put in us with Big Pharma's machinations. And on that note, I want to thank you all for tuning in today. You have been tuned into LAB Radio, LAB TV, livinginblack.com. We aim to be your favorite. We are LAB Radio. We are LAB TV. We are livinginblack.com. So on that note, hey, I'm out of here for today. Thank you, thank you, thank you for being where we are, for being true to what we do, and for giving everything you can to keep LIB Radio open. Your $5, $10, $20 subscription donation is a great addition to our arsenal of real weapons that we would use to liberate our people for all time. Peace and prosperity to each and every one of you.